Okay, we're live. Hi, everyone. How are you doing? We are back for yet another edition of SEO from home. Gotta admit, when we first started the SEO from home, wasn't thinking it would go until August, but here we still are. Now, we did notice that there was a theme the last couple of times we did this that people were really wanting to know more about page speed. So again, we're back. We're going to be focusing on that topic today. I'm Courtney. I'll be your host. I'll be reading out the questions and moderating the comments. Guys, if you could just quickly introduce yourselves. Nils, why don't you kick it off?
Yeah, hi. So I'm Nils. I co-founded WooRank. I'm the CTO, so the technical guy, the guy that dives in the databases and the servers mostly, but also working very closely with our product team to match their needs with our technical capabilities.
Adam?
Hi, guys. My name's Adam. I look after the SEO services at WooRank. And yeah, my job goes from anything from talking to you guys in a webinar. Also, we do consults and one-on-one training. And also, we get into the nitty-gritty of SEO and get our hands dirty. So hopefully, I can share some experience tonight.
Great. Yeah, tonight for you. Adam is in Australia.
Oh, yeah, it is.
Our American customers are like, it's definitely not night. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, okay. So like I mentioned, we are going to be focusing on page speed today, which is why we brought Nils in to join us. But just to get us warmed up and while we're waiting for people to join us, I wanted to revisit one of the questions that we got last week that Adam and I had to do a little bit of digging, Adam more so than myself. So the question that was asked last time was, is it possible to rank on Google with absolutely zero backlinks? And Adam, why don't you take that away while we get prepped for the page speed stuff?
Yeah, look, it was an interesting question. Have never been asked it before. The short answer, as far as I can see, is no. Yes, you can. I think too, maybe the question may have been asked in a way that confused it, but a website can exist, of course, without any links. You can create a brand new website and you can set it up and, you're good to go. But as soon as you submit that website to Search Console, it is not going to be listed without the listing itself becoming a link. So in a very roundabout way, it's a firm no.
Firm no. All right, now let's get down to the whole reason that we are here. Page speed, speeding up your site. No better time really to do it and to get into that nitty gritty of it than right now when we're all kind of stuck inside. So the first question that was asked, again, we're having problems with Courtney's Google Docs. Okay, so this one is from Dean. And Dean wanted to know if there are any recommendations for WordPress plugins that can actually help optimize page speed. And Nils, I'm going to send that one over to you.
Small disclaimer, I'm not a WordPress expert, but I do have a fair share of experience with dealing with our customers' questions about their WordPress setups. There's a bunch of plugins for in the WordPress space to speed things up, but I think the most notable ones are WP Rocket and WP Cache. At least that's also what I heard from WordPress experts who recommend those two tools. There's obviously lots of settings in both of them, huge overlap in what they do. They probably have their unique selling points of their own, but I'd say those are the two main ones I see being talked about all the time.
And guys, we will post the answers to this on our blog within the next couple of days, and we'll include the links to the ones that Nelson mentioned. All right, so next one, Nils, I'm also going to send over to you. What's the best WordPress theme you've ever worked on in terms of speed and SEO? Our resident WordPress expert.
Yeah, so this is one of those, it's complicated, or questions where the answer is it's complicated. I think, simply put, the theme doesn't really matter. Now, at the same time, if you use a theme that is bloated with HTML elements and objects, then of course your browser will struggle to render it. Performance will go down on your end, so not things that go over the network, but literally within your browser. So again, yeah, it's not something I can answer in a couple of minutes. But I guess if you stick with the common themes and adjust those, like the ones that are built by WordPress experts or people selling those theme marketplaces, I guess they've been vetted to be in such a marketplace and to be sold. So I'd say that's a safer way to go. But again, it's a hard one to answer. How to check on that? Just have a look at the source. Even though if you're not a developer or don't have a technical background, just by right-clicking in your browser, view page source, and if you see a lot of complex patterns in there, it's probably not a good theme to go with. If it all looks a bit nice and clean, then it probably is a good one. But that's my kind of answer where I stay on the fence.
Yeah, maybe we can do another webinar just about WordPress themes. So. Yeah, Nils would love that. Okay, so the next one, Adam, I'm going to shoot over to you. This is one that I saw a common theme of people that were pre-submitting questions. And as general as you can get, what are the top 5 things that people can do to speed up their websites?
Okay, sure. Look, there are a bunch of things. In general, a good 5 things to check straight away is removing any excess plugins from your WordPress site. If you're using WordPress, I'm just sticking with that because a lot of people are. Also include deleting plugins that you have installed but deactivated or not activated. So make sure that your only plugins are the ones that you need. Optimize your image sizes for both the theme and the content. That's a big one, and that would apply whether it's a WordPress site or if it's a HTML site or a Wix site or a Weebly site. That's a big one. If you're using something like WordPress, as Niels mentioned, WP Rocket, so that'll help you compress the speed. It'll compress all the assets. It'll make your website load faster. That'll be a noticeable big difference. You can look at using a CDN system, something like Cloudflare. I'm only mentioning that because I've personally used that a couple of times. It works pretty well with WP Fastest Cache. It actually connects right in, so that will give you a really good connection and really speed things up. And just a little one back from my coding days, I guess, avoid any inline styling. So what I mean there is if you've got a document and you want to sort of start formatting, colors and sizes of the content, don't. You should leave all your styling to the CSS code and not, be putting in red words where they shouldn't be going.
Very good tip. I'm going to pretend I know exactly what inline styling is. All right. So next one seems a little bit more technical. So Nicholas Larson wants to know if there's a way to manually compress assets like SVGs if Nicholas is using a CMS where he doesn't have access to change anything on the server side. Nils, what can Nicholas do? Is there a way? Yeah.
There am. That's also kind of a tough question. Tough question to answer very briefly. So obviously, like when you use, if you're not able to touch your HTML or the back end of your CMS, let's say, obviously all of the theming, then you cannot touch it. So there's nothing to be done. But if you're writing content, articles, and putting images within your content, then obviously there's a bunch of online and offline tools that will do a good job at taking in an image and then optimizing it really for the internet. And it doesn't really for optimization doesn't really matter in that case, whether it's PNG or SVG. Like there's a bunch of tools for both of them. What you'd use. I guess it's probably easier if we post a couple of links to such tools in afterwards, because we can just tell them to you now, but it doesn't make sense. But so every time you post an image in an article or a piece of content, it definitely pays off to have a optimization going for those images, because it will help your users. It's a little bit of extra work, but it's definitely worth it. Yes.
Great. All right, Adam. Next one is for you. How can someone eliminate render blocking resources or unused CSS? And this person wants to know the exact best method and plugin. So, mince words here.
The one and only. Okay, well, first, check your site with Google PageSpeed Insights. And I'm guessing you may already have done that, because you're kind of listing one of the common errors that'll throw up, which is the render blocking resources. I would then use the paid version of WP Rocket. And that's, I'm going to keep it nice and short, because that's going to be your best method. It is going to cost you money, but that's how you're going to resolve that problem straight up.
Well, I mean, he asked for the exact answer,
and
you gave it to him. Just a comment from one of our frequent viewers, 01 Systems. Welcome back, 01 Systems. They said that PNG can't is a command line utility and a library for compression of PNG images. And he says that he's used that before with success to manage a large inventory of images. So if anybody's looking for a quick tip, just check the comment sections. We got one there from one of our loyal viewers. Thank you, 01 Systems.
Yeah, and that's indeed a good point. So my answer was mostly based around what if you add new content, but indeed you probably already have a bunch of old content lying around that have images. So if you want to run through all of them in one go and optimize them, then definitely tools like this, be it on the command line, or there's probably some more UI oriented software, then that definitely pays off. So don't do it only for your new articles, but go back in time and for all your articles that are already online. Definitely a good comment. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right, Adam, another one that we seem to have been asked quite a bit, not only in this webinar, but many of the ones that we've done prior. How can I just better optimize my loading speed? And that comes from TopJob VN.
Oh, hello, TopJob VN. Okay, straightforward. Look, after you've, I'm going to assume that if you are using WordPress, you're going to install something like one of the caches we've been talking about, perhaps even a CDN network, like Cloudflare. But beyond that, really, and following up from what Neil said, on-site, especially with the images. So many websites I come across today have a beautiful homepage and a beautiful, great big picture. And then I inspect the properties of the picture, and I see that's a 5 megabyte file. That is just going to, on anyone, that's going to give them a bad day trying to load that website. So just check all your images. You can get the format, you can get the size down reasonably well, and still have a good resolution and a good look. But it really is that balance between the image size and the quality. So it's something that you have to do personally. The other thing I would be looking for is, are there any unnecessary snippets of code from old plugins, commented out sections of code, just sort of, or the code itself is, like Neil said, it's just kind of, it's all over the place. Tidying that up can be a great way. You can run code through minification tools online. I would just be a disclaimer, back up your site before you do that, because they don't always work 100%. You might find your page no longer working.
Good advice.
Yeah, always make a backup when you're doing this sort of work. You could obviously use Google Page Insights. That'll give you a really detailed view on what's happening with your page. And further, I would be using Lighthouse, which is one of the developer tools inside of Chrome, because that'll actually give you a snapshot, literally pictures of how your site is loading. And what you might notice is that there's 6 pictures of the blank page, and then the 7th picture is your icon or your logo, something that you forgot to optimize, and then you can just see straight away that that's what's taking it. That's what's really getting you. And also be careful of those social media plugins. They're great to have, but if Facebook's having a bad day and your website goes to fetch that Facebook plugin and it slows down, that's going to obviously delay your website from loading. So yeah, that would be the better ways to I could imagine.
Yeah, and I can, or if I try to summarize, I think so. There's basically 2 areas where you can optimize on where you can lose performance or optimize on performance. One part of loading a web page is everything that goes over the network. So coming from the server of the website to your browser. And indeed, like Adam said, the perfect or ideal solution there is a CDN. So essentially installing a cache around the globe so that every visitor to your website only has to connect to something that's quite local to them. Oversimplifying things a little bit here, but so that's optimization on getting things faster to a browser of a user. Now, often people kind of stop there and say, look, I have a CDN, so I did all I could, like my website should be fast. That's not true. Like, then it's up to your browser to actually render everything it gets presented. And there's a lot of issues you can have there too. So indeed, external plugins, Facebook, Google Analytics, but if you use smaller third parties for analytics or whatever, basically like third-party plugins, those can be slow, can have issues, can be down and slow down your website. But the things you control 100% yourself, the HTML itself, if you have like a huge HTML files with lots of objects, like I said earlier, your browser has to really render all of that and to get that perfect picture of your website. So definitely optimize on that. And then images, again, we already talked about that. Like in the 5 megabyte image is not good, especially not if you're on a mobile, of course, where a network can be slow, even though there might be a CDN installed in front of your website. You still need to pull it to your browser from that local server to you. That can still be slow. So there's that's basically like the 2 spaces where you can do different types of performance improvements on the network and within the browser.
Very good answer, very complete answer. It's been far too long since a shameless WooRank plug. So for me, if you want to just do an initial check just to see if there's something wrong, you can always do that with WooRank. If you just run a review of your URL, go down to the performance section. We actually check if there's anything that's weighing down your site, either minification problems, cacheability problems, compression problems. So if you're not sure what these, kind of words that Nils and Adam are using about CDN or anything like that, and you just want to know if there's a problem, go to WooRank, run a review. We'll let you know if there's something that you need to be concerned about. Shameless plug over. All right, next question. This one's going to go over to Nils as well. So this person wants to know, the WordPress website that they're running is pretty slow. Loading the full homepage needs typically around 5 to 7 seconds. Is it affecting the SEO ranking a lot, or is the WordPress website loading time slow and really bad for SEO?
Short answer, yes. Longer answer, it's this recurring theme of the way people think about SEO, like I need to do good for the crawlers of Google and Bing and the search engines. But in the end, it's all about like how does your user or your visitor perceive your website, and it's if it's slow for a user, then search engines will also take note of that and probably give you a hit if it's very slow in when it comes to showing you in search results. So 5 to 7 seconds is indeed it's quite long. So that's definitely something you need to check out and fix by means of what we just talked about, or probably have someone look at it. But just to put it simply, like if a user is impacted, like if a user has a bad time, then search engines will see that too and rank your websites lower. So there is of course lots of discussion in the SEO space among the experts, like how important performance actually is. Some say it's just a minor thing that search engines take into account in their big, bulky, crazy algorithms. Others say no, it's becoming more and more of the most important thing. Like, so yeah, take all of that with a grain of salt. But anyway, you don't want your users to wait for 5 to 7 seconds to see your page, regardless of what you do on the SEO side of things. So start there first, and then naturally your SEO based on the performance will be better too. But start with the user first, I would say.
We have a live question that just came in from Victor Snyders. So Victor, hi, thank you for joining us and watching. Victor wants to know, from which location does Google determine page speed and load time when utilizing the info for search ranking? I certainly can't answer it, but I'll go ahead and repeat it for you. So from which location does Google determine page speed and load time when utilizing that information and determining your search ranking?
Okay. Yep, go Niels.
I think it's a little more complicated than that. So anyhow, like Google has a crawling or their bots network across the entire globe. So that's for sure. They do crawl your website also from across the globe. So I don't think it's like your website is or your web server is in the UK, so they only crawl your website from there. That's not how it works. They do a global crawl, and I think. I mean, I don't know how Google's algorithms work and how their crawler work, but I think they do some sort of aggregation of what they find by crawling your website from these different places. I don't want to oversimplify it because I literally don't know how it works. Now, there is something to say for the fact that, like, if you have a business or a website that is global or caters to a global audience, you'd want to have your website load fast in all around the world. If you're more local, I do think, and it goes beyond just the performance, of course. Like there are just optimizations you can do on other levels too, content and whatnot, where it mostly matters to you that you're fast in one area. Like if you run a local restaurant or something like that, does it really matter that a user 10,000 kilometers away has a fast browsing experience? Ideally, yes, but then again, like ROI wise, is that the first thing you should focus on? I don't think so. So the same applies here. Like, don't think too much in terms of how will Google perceive my website. Think of how your users will perceive it, and like the SEO will automatically follow. So think about your users. Are you local? Then okay, make sure your site loads fast for the local area you're catering to. Are you global? Yeah, use CDNs. Make sure you're fast across the globe, and then eventually the SEO will pick up on that. So users first.
Yeah, always great advice. Dean Levitt, I saw your question. We're going to take one pre-submitted question first, then we'll go right to you. So just Stick tight. Stick tight? Sit tight.
Hold tight.
Hold tight. One of them. Just be patient. Okay, so we've talked a little bit already about compressing assets. So one of our questions that was pre-submitted come from Andres Del Pino. And Andres wants to know, how do I compress assets? So Adam?
Okay. Okay. Generally, again, by using a plugin, if you're on WordPress, there are plugins for images. There are plugins for the CSS and the code. You do need to follow the rule, though. Generally, the least amount of plugins, the better. So it's kind of ironic, we say install a plugin to help your website, but at the same time, each plugin that you install can in fact slow it down. So if you have a website that has a lot of images, perhaps it's a photography website, then you might want to focus on a plugin that is really all about compressing images really well as its focus. So something like Smush is really good. If you don't have as many images and it's more scripting and code, then you're going to be looking for something that's more minification and compression. But yes, you're going to compress assets. It's not like a lever that you can flick on most CMSs. You're going to need a plugin for it. And if you have a website like Weebly or Wix, then you'd probably want to run that through a CDN like Cloudflare, which will do the compression for you. So yeah, WordPress, you can do it yourself. Otherwise, you can do it through third-party service.
Yeah, I think Cloudflare is indeed a good, again, not a one-size-fits-all solution, but probably one that will fit most use cases. So it's a CDN by nature, like in its simplest form, but they do a lot of optimizations on the nodes in the...
Lupe, shh. Sorry. Go on.
Does she want to answer any questions? Then I'll gladly hand over the mic.
Sounds like it.
Sorry.
So no, Cloudflare is like a CDN you can install or configure in front of your website. It's kind of a DNS setup you need to do there, but it's fairly simple to be done. And they do a bunch of the optimizations on their network. Like before it goes to your visitor's browser, they can already out of the box do a bunch of stuff for you. So if indeed you don't, like the question earlier, you don't have access to your web server, your code, the back end of your website, then putting Cloudflare in front can already help you to make changes, even though you cannot touch the code. So that's actually a good suggestion there, Adam. Cloudflare, definitely more than a CDN. It does a lot of the work for you. Now, if you have a website or you're very much building your website yourself, then it's always kind of a balance you need to make, what Cloudflare features you turn on and what you do yourself, because if those things start interfering with each other, it becomes very hard to debug any issues. But if you are someone that just writes the content on the website, doesn't really touch the code, but want things to be better, then it's really a great solution. Yeah.
Okay, good, complete answers. So Dean, as promised, let's get over to your question. Live question coming in for you guys. So Dean says that his page loading speed and Google's page speed, I'll say that 5 times fast, Google's page speed insights are between 67 and 85. Top competitors are in the low 30s, but are kicking his butt in the rankings. So besides page speed, what would be the next thing to really focus on if his competitors are beating him so badly?
Well, that's what I'll kick the question over to Adam, but that already kind of plays into what I said earlier, like page speed, performance in general. Is it an SEO ranking factor? Yes, but how important is it in Google's black box? We don't know. There's lots of discussion, experimentation around that, but only performance alone is not gonna save you, or is not gonna kick you high up in Google's rankings. But what else can be done? Like I gladly push that over to Adam.
Yeah, look, that's a perfect example of what we've been saying. That it's not just one factor. Google's algorithm consists of tens, if not hundreds of thousands of very different factors. What I would be doing there in a practical sense from an SEO point of view is I'd be going, right, so my speed is better than my competitors, but as you said, they're far outperforming you in other areas. So I'd be running 3 audits on each of the 3 websites and then looking at the other factors. You might find very quickly that, I can see both of the other websites have less content than I do, more content than I do, more appropriate content, more related content, or perhaps they have blogs and you're not blogging. So it really needs to be like a holistic view. And again, that's what WooRank offers, is you can run that page review. And I say with, in all sincerity, you can use WooRank or any other tool, but getting a snapshot of those 3 websites, yours and your 2 competitors, is really important, because your question really proves the fact that it's not just speed. If it was just speed, then that'd be really easy for us.
Yeah, definitely. And just piggybacking on that, I mean, WooRank, or really any all-in-one SEO tool is perfect for a situation like this, because it's not always just one thing. And I find that sometimes beginner, novice SEO, just really beginners, think that page speed tools are interchangeable with keyword tools, are interchangeable with crawlers, and it's really more of a, like Adam said, a holistic view. And that's exactly what WooRank will do with you. If one thing is perfect, we'll identify what parts aren't perfect that might be really dragging you down. All right, back to the pre-submitted questions. So Mateo has one for you, Adam. What is the best hosting in terms of speed for Latin American WordPress sites? Very specific here.
Okay, well, we kind of have alluded to this, but we're not trying to be obtuse or confusing here, but it really is true. It depends. if you're a local restaurant and you're targeting local customers, then it kind of makes sense to give your users the experience that they would want, because ultimately that's what the Google SEO algorithm is trying to do. It's trying to simulate an experience for what a real person would feel and you see from a website, and then give that a score. So if your website is really snappy and it loads fast, and you're at a restaurant, and the menus don't come up as huge JPEGs of a zoomed out photo of your menu, but they actually come up as nicely styled pages, the user gets a better experience. It doesn't really matter where you host that much. I will say that most of the large CDN networks, if you were going to use these, will have a hosting center usually in Texas. So in the States, there's usually one in North America, and one to be a couple in Europe, and one in Australia if we're lucky, or Singapore. But yeah, it really comes down to your business. It's hard for me to say, go to this company, they offer the best WordPress hosting in Latin America, because we don't have any partnerships with anyone in Latin America, but it's more complicated than that. And I can't really be specific with that question.
Yeah, that should be the thesis statement of our webinar. It depends.
It does depend.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to switch it up on you guys here, just so that Nils can get some good questions coming his way. So Michael submitted a question saying, on the latest Google Chrome, when performing a page speed test on Lighthouse, why is it recommended to use video instead of animated GIFs? I know I say it wrong. Animated GIFs, animated GIFs, for a faster page load speed.
I'm trying to find my words not to go too technical.
We can handle it.
The simple version of it would be like, is it GIF or GIF? Like, do we have a consensus on this?
I say GIF, but I know I'm the only one that does. So.
GIF.
GIF. GIF. Anyway, the thing is with GIF, yeah, it's an image format of sorts. It can be quite large quite quickly, so in the megabytes very quickly. And your browser has to load it as a whole before it can start rendering your page. So I talked a lot about how pages render, or how browsers have to render HTML and everything in it before it can be shown to your user. So a GIF might be blocking. So it might be, if it's a big one, that it takes time for your browser to show the entire page. So that might be towards a user. Again, user first might be not a good experience for them. Whereas videos, and I assume then you're looking at using certain hosting platforms, like could be YouTube, could be Vimeo. There's some other things, like that's asynchronous. Like it just has to load a very simple little thing on your website to be able to play a video, but then the video will stream in as the HTML page gets rendered. So your users will already see a bunch of things going on your website, and the video, it can still be quite large, and that's the good thing. Like video platforms already optimized on that behavior. Like they buffer a bunch of stuff, so they don't have to load the entire video to start showing it. They can load just the first couple seconds, already start showing things while the rest is coming in. So that's again in a simplified way how video platforms work. So it's asynchronous. Like your browser can just already start rendering, even though the video is not entirely, or the buffering isn't entirely done, and then start playing when it gets the first few bits, bytes, whatever seconds in, and show it to you. So GIFs are blocking, videos are generally asynchronous. So from a user experience point of view, a better choice.
Okay, awesome. So I have the next one coming in from Christian. Now, Christian wants to know what's the best technique or plugin for lazy load in WordPress without affecting the user experience or the site structure. So Adam, I was hoping that maybe first you could explain what lazy loading is, and then go ahead and answer the question.
Yeah, well, I mean, so lazy loading is a optimization method or a technique, and what it essentially does is it loads the visible content of a website first, which is what web designers will generally call above the fold. So that's what you can see on your screen before you have to scroll down with your mouse. So this can include, images, videos, scripting, especially if it's social media plugins. And the best way to handle this, again, would be a lazy loading plugin for WordPress would certainly do the trick. I would also I have seen some plugins on particular websites that have worked on not worked that well. Always do some testing once you install these kind of optimization plugins. Again, first do a backup, install the plugin, and then test it. The other issue would be some of these lazy loading specific plugins will have conflicts with other, if you're using WP Fastest Cache and a lazy loading plugin together, you might have some issues. So install them one at a time, test your website, just look at the experience that you're getting, and go from there. But that's lazy loading really in a nutshell.
Awesome. Okay, Nils, next one is for you. This one comes in from Jules. Jules has a speed question. So Jules uses BigCommerce on WordPress and wants to know, what is an XHR file? It's really big.
Good question. Very technical question. So XHR stands for XML HTTP request. And it's usually so it's also asynchronous, or it's within that space. So even if it's a big file, I wouldn't worry too much about it. Again, like it's not a one size fits all answer, but it's usually used where you have your website and it's rendered so a user can see the website, but then things need to be loaded dynamically on the page. Maybe the simplest example is a chat application, like your browser loads, it's done, but then once you start chatting and people start chatting to you, like things come in dynamically without reloading the web page, and that's like the space we're in with XHR requests. So it's a synchronous loading of data into your browser, and then your browser dynamically changing things to the web page as it gets that data in. So again, a large XHR calls won't be blocking, so aren't a problem per se. But again, as we said earlier, when it with image sizes and stuff like that, like do take into account that a mobile phone on a slow connection also needs to load these things. So even if you want to change dynamic things on your web page, if it's huge requests, then they will also take time, and I don't know how important they are to the experience of your user. But it's in that space, so it's hard to answer as a canned answer. It's probably very specific to your use case or your website, so it needs some digging into. But that's roughly the space we're talking in. So not necessarily a problem as they are asynchronous and they won't impact the experience from the get-go. But that doesn't mean it isn't a problem. Maybe it is. Maybe there are things that need to change dynamically on your website, and it's taking a long time. So maybe still the experience might be impacted, but that's really a case-by-case examination that needs to be done there.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thanks, Nils. All right, next one is for Adam. This comes in from Ines, and again, I have to say it every time. I'm so sorry if I'm butchering your name, you guys. Not the best at that. So Ines wants to know, how can I speed up my website and also add keywords and also add heading tags and links, and how can I rank higher on Google and Bing? Adam?
Oh, that's easy. That's SEO. Yeah, I mean, you've kind of you've actually mentioned a lot of the really important factors there. Page speed, yep, definitely a factor as we know and as we see all the time, but not the only factor, as has been proven by one of our viewers tonight. Adding keywords to your heading tags, again, it's not a canned answer. I like that sort of way of putting it. What I would recommend here is a little bit of a step back, and you need to look at the products that you're trying to sell and the people that you're trying to sell them to, and doing SEO will encompass, doing SEO will lead to you fixing all these things. It'll lead to you speeding up your website for appropriate users. It'll lead to you adding the right keywords into the product pages. It'll lead to you, generating the right kind of tags, the meta tags, meta description, the title tags, and all of that stuff. Look, if you do need guidance across that kind of whole spectrum of SEO, use WooRank. We're from WooRank, so it's why we built the tool. That is going to help you in all of those areas. It's going to start that journey for you. So yeah, it's actually a really great question. It's because SEO will fix all of those problems for you.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't want to sound like a broken record, you guys, but WooRank really is designed to help exactly with this. Yeah. And if you're overwhelmed that it kind of sounds like some of you are in the comments or in the questions that we're getting, like, what do I do? That's exactly what we're designed for, is to just kind of make this not as overwhelming for you. Like, yes, we understand that you have to do X, Y, Z, but this is how you do it. This is how you implement it. Here's a guide to help you. Here's a resource to help you. We break it down for you so that it's not so scary. And then also, if you are SEO professionals, we have a lot of advanced tools that aren't so diluted, so it's really accessible to any level of SEO knowledge. And the best part, 14 days, you can just try it. So I know, like I said, I sound like a broken record, but sign up and just try it. If you're overwhelmed, that's what we're here for. Okay, we have time for a couple more questions. I'm gonna find one for Nils that I saw, one of our frequent questioners. Okay, yes, there we are.
In the meantime, I want to get back to an earlier question that was answered by Adam about the lazy loading. And I just wanted to double check before I said this to make sure I don't make mistakes. But again, Cloudflare, and we're not affiliated with them whatsoever, so we're not making any money here or whatever. But we just love their service. The lazy loading, that's also one of the things they handle for you out of the box. So they basically do the work of checking, okay, what's the image size of the visitor looking at the website, what images will be visible within that frame, and those we prioritize versus the other ones we can load later when people start scrolling. So again, it can be like lazy loading can be technically a quite complex thing to implement yourself, but Cloudflare is again the one that does it for you out of the box. So yep.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay, perfect. Nils, this next one is for you. This comes from Jamsid. He has sent in a question every single webinar. So thank you again, Jamsid, for being so engaged with us. So Jamsid wants to know how does he find out what's causing his website to be slowing down?
I think what Adam earlier pointed to is in Google Chrome you have Lighthouse Reports. So yeah, there's how-tos online on how to bring it up. It's somewhere in one of the menus Chrome has. And that will give you, just like a WooRank review that goes beyond just one web page and looks at your entire website, Lighthouse will look specifically at the page you're on and check a bunch of parameters, especially on performance, and give you back a report on things that are good, not good, and give you a score, just like WooRank does. Now, it can become quite technical quite quickly. So I don't know what a technical background this question or the person asking this question has. But yeah, that's a good starting point to see, okay, what are the maybe low-hanging fruit, what are the more complex things to change? Like they give you a good output. Small but important side note there, like the score they give back to you, it's kind of a lab score. You need to look at it like it's not like I might run a Lighthouse report on one web page, and Adam might do it, and Courtney might do it, and we all get a different score. So don't take it don't attach yourself too much to the absolute number. It's rather, okay, maybe if my score right now is 30, which isn't good, it's a score based on 100. I make some changes, I run it again, it goes to 35. Okay, I made improvement. Don't compare it to, oh, it's 35 and my competitor has 45 and Adam runs it and he saw that a third competitor has 75. Like, don't compare the scores with each other. It doesn't make sense. It's more of a lab experience kind of thing where if you work on your website, do a check, make some improvements, see if that score went up. If it did, good, continue. If it didn't, go back and change things around. So, but that's a good tool, like to test things out, to debug, to really tell you what's wrong, start fixing things, and seeing whether or not you actually fix them.
Awesome. Okay, we're gonna take one more live question and then one more pre-submitted, and then we'll say ciao. I'm so sorry about pronouncing your name. Raould Myers wants to know, hi guys, we're specifically struggling to have a better mobile site speed. Desktop's in the low 90s, but mobile's dropping to low 40s. Is there anything specific we should be looking at?
Okay, well, yeah, very important. The first thing I would do is check your search console and just make sure that your website has been marked as a mobile first website in Search Console. you're going to get a lot of help from Google themselves when it comes to mobile speed, because it is something that they are focusing on a lot in the last couple of years. So Search Console, Lighthouse, these sorts of reports and tools are going to show you where your mobile performance is suffering. Look, ultimately, the idea that Google is trying to promote is that we should build websites for mobiles first, which is where their whole sort of, this is suitable for a mobile first comes from. So this goes back to the design, using really optimized images. If we think about how we built websites long time ago, when we had the Flash, and some of you might not even remember Flash, but we used to have little loading circles on the screen. That just doesn't work anymore. So it really, the fastest things on your website is always going to be the content. The words, they're gonna zip up straight away. But it's the assets, like your images, your logos, plugins, scripts. If you're using Google Fonts, that's another script. If you're using Google Analytics, that's another script as well. So really, from a mobile point of view, I'd be going to Search Console, looking at your core web vitals there, and really starting to pull apart your website from the ground up there, and with the other tools like Lighthouse and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Okay, let's take just one last question here. My thing isn't scrolling again. Okay, so from Jorge Abraham, do you think it's possible that every element of a website is going to load 100% when typing the URL? Adam?
No. No, not even an AMP website. I'm out. Yeah. No. Not much to elaborate on, really, but yeah, no.
Can you repeat the question? Because I tried to digest.
Okay, so do you think it's possible that every element of a website is going to load 100% when typing the URL?
And every element, like every HTML element, or every, because I think maybe a bit of a sidetrack to this, but like an emerging pattern on the internet is ad blocker. So there's definitely an increase in ad blocker usage. So for instance, although it's not really a visible element, but if you run Google Analytics or any third-party monitoring tool, then those will be blocked, and you as a website owner have no control over that. It's totally up to the user to decide. Okay, I want to use an ad blocker, and I want calls to Google Analytics or Mixpanel or whatever you use to be blocked. So indeed, the answer is a straight no to that, and there's nothing you can do about it. Like there are external factors on the network. It might be that if you use Mixpanel, they have an issue, it's down, so not under your control as a website owner, or your end user uses an ad blocker, which is totally their decision and totally fine. But there's also nothing you can do to counter that. So kind of reiterating on the no.
Okay, perfect. Sorry, there's this fly flying around me. Okay, so I think that's all we have time for today. So again, you guys, thank you so much for coming on and answering the questions that everybody had pre-submitted and asked live. Super good answers, really helpful, I think. Some housekeeping stuff, as we mentioned about a gajillion times today. Sign up for WooRank if you have troubles or if you just want to see where you're at and get an assessment. 14-day free trial. Adam and I will be there to help you out if you have questions. Also, I noticed that there were some questions that had not a lot to do with page speed in the comments today and also pre-submitted. So I have already talked to some of you in the comments, but if you didn't see your answer, two options: either email me or email Adam. So Courtney@WooRank.com or Adam@WooRank.com, and we'll try to get to your questions as soon as possible. Otherwise, go to our YouTube channel. This is our 5th or 6th SEO from home webinar. Chances are we've already answered your question in one of the other webinars, specifically if it has to do with keyword research or backlinks or anything of the sort. We've probably already answered it more than once. So please feel free to watch those or email us directly. We will be back again next month. So thank you again, everyone, for coming on and watching and staying so engaged with us. And yeah, I guess that's it. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
See you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
See you next month.
Ciao.